Good Thursday afternoon. Welcome in to Josh and Swain. Thank you for being with us today. We are very excited to be with you for the next 3 hours. We are excited to move forward and get closer to the start of the college football season. Every day, we're one day closer. We're also closer to Tennessee scrimmaging. The next practice session for the Tennessee Vols will be a scrimmage at Neyland Stadium. That's coming up Friday evening as the Vols practiced again earlier today outside. To continue to get ready for the start of the season. VFL and former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain is here. I'm Josh Ward. We invite you to join us. You can call or text in at 865-656-9900. We will talk about the Vols today. You will hear from some Vols. You will hear from defensive line coach Rodney Garner, who I think recognizes he has a potentially really good group, but he might stop short of calling them a really good group before the season begins. You'll hear another player in that group talk about how great they are. So we will have that for you on today's show. Charles Power of On3, he helps evaluate all the prospects in the country to then figure out the rankings for these recruits. Many highly touted players have committed to Tennessee in the 2025 class and now the 26 class. Charles will join us at 12:30 to talk about the group that Tennessee has put together with David Sanders, the big target remaining, with his commitment coming up in 9 days. So we have a ton to get to. Very excited for it. Jason Swain, how are you today?
I'm great, man. How are you doing?
Good. We're getting closer.
Hey.
I can start to feel it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Rodney Garner, you mentioned that he's not going to be over the moon hyped publicly about his group. You have to think about how many years he's been coaching in this conference in the SEC, how many great groups he has had, how many All-Americans he has coached, how many first-round picks he has coached at the college level. So this is normal for Rodney Garner to coach a group like he has at Tennessee. So unlike maybe some of the younger coaches that get really excited about having a really good player at Tennessee or a good group, you hear their excitement a little bit more, and that's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. But Rodney Garner, he's been around the block a ton with really good defensive line groups. So he's not going to give them that praise maybe publicly as some other coaches would do.
And at every position group, whether we're talking about a deep defensive line, a wide receiver group that looks deep, or positions that maybe aren't there yet, all these coaches are still trying to push for competition within those groups. I mean, there's some examples that you could throw aside, like Dylan Sampson's not competing to be the starting running back, or Cooper Mays at center, or Nico at quarterback. But we know a lot of the starting positions, in fact. But in terms of just competition, trying to push guys and trying to see whether they're going to start or play a role in some kind of rotation, that's a lot of what they're all trying to push for right now.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, you mentioned running back in Dylan Sampson, and that's been a hot topic, right? You had Dylan Sampson entering that number one role. I'm so excited for him. He's one of my favorite players on this team, and I'm sure he would want a stable of backs behind him that is just as good as he is, just like he was just as good as Jalen Wright and Jabari Small last year and the year before that, because he needs that rest. He needs to have opportunity to get on the sideline, make adjustments, rest, and not have to carry the load. So you have an opportunity for Deshaun Bishop and Peyton Lewis and Cam Seldon to fight for that number 2 spot. I mean, many people have already put Cam Seldon at number 2, and I said this earlier on my show, the Swain event, and my comments have made VolQuest the general quarters. How about that, Josh
You
Ward?
on the board?
Yeah, man, it's made VolQuest today. I guess someone did not understand the concept of Cam Selton not being number two. Well, my thing, what I said this morning, and I'll say it again right now, is Cam Selton hasn't done anything to be locked in at number two. You have to put in reps in the games. You have to be productive in the games to miss spring, summer, fall camp, and not do everything that everyone else is doing in fall camp. Not participate in the in scrimmages, to just be sitting comfortable in your spot. It would be one thing if it was Brew McCoy, if it was Dylan Sampson, if it was James Pierce, if it was Cooper Mays, if it was John Campbell. Those guys have the luxury of sitting out and still maintaining their position. Cam Selton does not have that luxury. You have a Deshaun Bishop that had a great spring. You have a Pay Lewis that's coming in with a lot of promise. Like, you can't make the club in the tub, and you don't get a chance to keep your spot when you have not rushed for over 100, 200 yards in your college career. Now, when Selton gets healthy, oh, watch out. He's one of my favorite explosive players from the class that he came in. What was that, 2 classes ago or last year's class?
23 class, yeah.
23 class. He was the most explosive player in that class. Came in as a receiver / running back, but we knew he was going to play running back. He's still learning the position with his body level, understanding how to play the running back position. But he hasn't done enough to just have your spot if you've been hurt. That's not the way it works at this level of college football.
Yeah, both things can be true. What you just said there about loving Selton's ability and the impact he'll probably be able to make when he comes back healthy, but also having to prove it, like Boo Carter this year. You love his athleticism and his potential to be a really good player in the defensive backfield. He might be a game one starter and play at a high level right away as a freshman. I'm sure you still want to see it before you say that that's what he's going to do as a true freshman.
Yeah, he hasn't done enough to be able to sit out practice number one, scrimmage number one. So like Brew McCoy has 2022 big plays in that game, that season, big play in the Alabama game, bringing us back to score the touchdown or score the field goal to win. Big game in the Clemson game in the Orange Bowl. He had huge performances before he got hurt. I remember the 2023 Florida game where he was the only option offensively late in that game. He's still fighting, clawing, scratching, making big plays. Brew has shown the coaching staff what he's capable of doing when he's healthy. There's nothing for Brew to prove tomorrow at the scrimmage. Zero. Zilch. Nothing. But that's Brew McCoy. When you have put in the work that Brew has put in, you have the luxury of sitting out scrimmages and still being the number one receiver or a starter. No one at running back besides Dylan Sampson has that luxury. You have to perform. You have to prove that you're ready for the bright lights.
I think you said on yesterday's show, you think Brew looks good.
I think he looks real good.
Running around out there on the field.
He looks better than he ever has looked wearing orange.
There, and maybe you mentioned the single digit. Maybe there is something to that. Maybe he looks a little more slender in that number than with one other digit next to it with the 1-5 instead of just the 5. But had a chance to go to the portion of practice that was open to the media today, and I thought the same thing watching him run his routes. He looks good.
Yeah, like when he first got here, I mean, he was bulky, he was stocky, he was thick, he was strong, and he is still strong, but he's more slender. I think he's quicker. I think he's leaner, and I don't think it's just the number. I think that's what he really is. Like he is quicker, and I think he looks better than he ever has wearing Tennessee orange.
All right, so we've reached that stage of fall camp. A little VolQuest banter over Jason Swain's comments about what's going on with Tennessee football. That's an important step of fall camp as well.
Hey, you don't have to believe me. I'm just there watching it.
Oh, trust me, I take what you say with a grain of salt, but I still am interested in hearing it.
I mean, I'm watching practice when no one else is able to watch it. Hey, you don't have to believe me if you don't want to. That's fine. My feelings will not be hurt.
Does that help your confidence that I believe you?
Well, you're the reason why my confidence is high is because you believe me. If you
Okay.
didn't believe me, my confidence would be low.
Okay.
That's how much you matter, Josh.
Well, thanks a lot for that. This is our third fall camp together on Josh and Swain.
That's right. That's right. Our first fall camp, I told you about a young running back that was making plays and, and making the defense look silly. That running back was Dylan Sampson. Look where we are today.
That you did. We're talking about Dylan Sampson having earned that number one spot and the right to go stand over to the side so the young guys can get more reps.
That's right. That's right. That is correct, my friend. So, um, the running back group, that's going to be a fun group to watch tomorrow night. Um, the report from practice should be really spicy about that group. What is Peyton Lewis going to do? What is Deshaun Bishop going to do? That is going to be a great battle between those two guys.
Yeah, because what they're able to do is going to play a big role in what this offense is. It starts with Nico, then Cooper, and we know about Dylan Sampson's role, but number 2 and number 3 probably still are going to play a big role in this offense, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And right away, that's likely Lewis and Bishop one way or the other.
Yeah, sometimes the number 3 guy will have more snaps and more reps than the number 2 guy. We saw that play out last year. Like, that's the thing about running back that's different from other positions. And we've heard Darrell Sims say this. We've heard other running back coaches say this. When a running back is feeling it, seeing the hole a little bit differently and better than the other guys, he has a hot hand, we're going to keep going to that hot hand. We saw Dylan Sampson get more carries than even the number 1 back at times last year. He was better than the number 1 back at times last year. That number 1 back was a 3rd round pick of the Miami Dolphins. But sometimes you're just feeling it. It's just like basketball. You're seeing the hole. You're seeing things a little bit better than somebody else, maybe even a starter. So we ride the hot hand. That's what happens at running back sometimes.
We'll continue the conversation around the running back group, the defensive line, Tennessee's future players when Charles Power joins us at 12:30 to talk about the 2025 class and 2026 quarterback commit Faison Brandon. That's at 12:30. We're with you until 3 o'clock and invite you to join us along the way. You can call or text in at 865-656-9900. Questions you might have, comments about Tennessee's football team now a week into the month of August, getting closer to the start of the season as we continue the conversation on Josh and Swain. This is Josh and Swain. Thank you for being with us at Josh and Swain on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can follow us there as we'll continue the Tennessee football conversation. Swain, as practice continues, I think one of the position battles that has interested you the most as well, you've talked about this on this show, on Swain Event, but in the slot, Squirrel White, who has really succeeded to this point in his career, led the team in receiving with 803 yards last year. He's made big plays, made tough catches. He projects as the starting punt returner, we think, as well. But Chaz Nimrod is a guy that you've praised for the way that he's developed, the work he's put in the weight room, the weight that he's put on, how he can do a number of different things on the field, play different spots as well. But that's a position battle that has interested you, I think, Squirrel and Chaz Nimrod at the slot.
Yeah, it may be crazy to some folks, but I think that is a battle. I mean, we're talking about a third-year player in Chaz Nimrod. How long do you think he's going to sit on the bench? You don't think he's going to improve and develop and get better? Chaz Nimrod is here. He's gained weight. He's about 220 pounds. He hasn't lost a step. I was watching the guys work on deep post routes and go routes yesterday, tracking the ball. And for the quarterbacks, you would think like go routes are easy, but like even routes versus air is not easy because everyone is different in how they are able to accelerate or maintain that speed. Like watch the Olympics. And I was talking to Jonathan Wade about this because he's a track guy. I was asking him about Christian Coleman. All right, why is Christian Coleman not more of a factor in the 100? Well, Christian Coleman has a really good start, but to maintain that speed, that's what's holding Christian Coleman back. Well, when you look at Noah Lyles, well, he is a gold medalist because he gets faster and he maintains that speed. Well, when you're a receiver and that ball is thrown to where you're going to be, there's different guys that can maintain that speed or have the ability to accelerate. And as a quarterback, you have to know how each receiver can handle the deep ball. So for maybe Brew, you don't throw it out as much as you do with Squirrel or Nimrod or Dante Thornton. And so these are things that you worry about, not necessarily worry about, but you have to factor in when you are throwing the deep ball to different receivers if you are Nico. But watching Nimrod, watching Squirrel track the deep ball, those guys are really good because they're really fast and they're able to maintain their speed and accelerate to go track the ball if the ball is a little bit further than they expected. So that battle between Squirrel and Nimrod is going to be really, really good. Nimrod, to me, is complete as any receiver that we have. He doesn't drop balls. he is shifty. He's going to run routes. He sets up his routes very well. He has nice body, balance when he's changing directions. He doesn't slip. He doesn't fall. And he has the speed to separate. So I know people saw Nimrod last year, and people have fallen in love with Squirrel, but Nimrod does a lot that maybe Squirrel can't do. And Squirrel maybe does a few things that Nimrod can't do either, but Nimrod's fast too. So that's going to be a really, really interesting battle there between those two. And I do not envy Kelsey Pope and Josh Heupel and the offensive staff having to figure out which one of those receivers you go with. And if you go with one, how long do you wait before the backup goes in? Because they're right there neck and neck to me.
I don't know how much you've seen here. Excuse me. David asked, how has Dylan Sampson looked in pass protection? That's an area where he has needed to improve the last couple of years.
I don't have an answer for you at this very moment because there's so much going on in 11-on-11. It's really hard to give you, like, if someone says, oh, what about this guy? I may know because I may have saw him make a play or two, but I may not know. But if you ask me, all right, next time you go to practice, let us know about Dylan Sampson, I can do that. Dylan Sampson's entering his third season. He's stronger. He has a better understanding of pass protection. If you are an opposing linebacker that is bigger, you're going to feel like you can win against Dylan Sampson. Um, but Dylan Sampson has the fight of a lion. Um, he's smaller than Jalen Wright and maybe Jabari Small as far as pass protection, but um, I think he learned a valuable lesson in his first year playing as a freshman. But they're going to protect him, I think, in the first two scrimmages because he's so important. So how many reps will he get during 11-on-11 is going to be interesting. But tomorrow night, I'll make sure I pay attention to Dylan Sampson and see how he holds up with his pass pro. I'm pretty sure he's going to be fine.
Tomorrow night's a big one. At Neyland Stadium, Tennessee will hold a scrimmage to get ready for the start of the season, the first big scrimmage of fall camp for the Vols. That's coming up tomorrow evening, and then we'll have plenty to discuss afterward when we come back on the air on Monday. We'll come back and in our next segment talk to Charles Power from On3 to see what he thinks about several key commitments for Tennessee in the 2025 class, as well as highly touted quarterback Faison Brandon, who committed to Tennessee in the 2026 class, plus David Sanders hanging out there. He'll announce a week from Saturday. How big of a get would that be for Tennessee if the Vols are able to close that race? We'll come back and discuss all of that with Charles Power of On3 as we continue right here on Josh and Swain. We're back on Josh and Swain. Thanks for being with us alongside VFL former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain. I'm Josh Ward. We appreciate you hanging out with us today. We'll get back to Tennessee football on the field as they practiced earlier today. They'll get ready for the first fall scrimmage coming up tomorrow evening at Neyland Stadium. But our conversation this segment largely will be about guys of the future. We can probably talk about some of the guys they've rated that are now on campus as well if we have time for that. But Charles Power joins us. Always enjoyed talking to him. He's the director of scouting and rankings for on3.com. Charles, appreciate you taking time to join us. Busy week with the symposium going on there in Nashville. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Great to be with you all.
Hey, Tennessee's had a pretty good run during the summer months, it looks like, with how they've recruited guys they got on campus and then have committed to this point. If you look at Tennessee's 2025 class to start there, because they also got Faison Brandon and Carson Snead in 26 earlier this week, but the 25 class, does anything stand out to you in terms of what Tennessee has been able to do based on how you've evaluated a lot of these players?
Yeah, so Tennessee has a really strong class right now. They're currently number 9 in the On3 industry rankings. So, tracking for a top 10 class. And I think at this point, if you're kind of in that top 10 range, like most of these top players are committed, and Tennessee we're going to talk about, I guess, a little later, could add another 5-star. So I think Tennessee is really trending towards the top 10 class under Josh Heupel. So I think that's a great sign. I think what stands out to me, I think the positions that Tennessee has recruited strong, continue. I look at a guy like Marion Dye. I think Tennessee has done a fantastic job under Josh Heupel of recruiting that like edge position and getting guys who are really like traitsy, just has a lot of physical tools. I think Marion Dye he could be one of the most physically impressive prospects in this cycle. We had him at our On3 Elite Series event back in May, and we measured all those guys, like their arm length, height, weight, wingspan, and he was just kind of freakish in that regard. I think his arms were like 35 and a half inches, 6'5", 268, kind of like a lean 268 as well. And he's a guy who I think his best football is ahead of him, and he's just kind of scratching the surface. So I think he's one that's exciting. Guys that they've added recently, Lagonza Shady Hayward, I think is a fantastic football player. He's a guy who kind of came on the scene later, but he's like a kind of a big safety, could maybe grow into a box player, but physical, athletic, is a 2-3-way, three-phase player at the high school level. So that's what you love to see, I think, for safeties, just guys who are just pure football players. I think he's a potential difference maker. Getting Deshaun Brain back in the fold, he was a guy that Tennessee was training for a long time. Flipped from Oregon, one of the hottest recruiting teams this summer. So I think to go into Oregon and flip a guy that they coveted is huge. So I think they've done a great job. I think to me, just continuing the positions they're recruiting strong. And I think with Josh Heupel, what I've always been impressed with under his regime is they recruit to an identity. They know what they want. They know what they want at receiver. Like Travis Smith fits what they want at receiver. They want big bodies, and then speed rushers with Marion Dye. Jaden Lofton, I think, is a great athlete. And then they're recruiting the quarterback level, the quarterback position, I think, as high of a level as anyone in the country. When you're talking about adding George McIntyre, Faison Brandon to the room that they already have, so I think they're doing a great job.
Charles, we look at recruiting the last 5 or 10 years. There's been Georgia, there's been Alabama, there's been Ohio State. That's pretty much recruited better than anyone else. You mentioned Oregon's real hot. Auburn's doing a really good job as well. Tennessee is hot right now. Do you feel like Tennessee is trending towards recruiting at the level of Ohio State, of Alabama, and of Georgia? There's been an uptick in recruiting for Tennessee, but do you feel like it can last?
I think so. I think the biggest thing with Tennessee is they're doing it at premium positions, right? So like I think recruiting these high level quarterbacks are going to put them, in that kind of tier. I think when you look at like a school like Georgia, they recruit the line of scrimmage so well. So I think that's kind of been their differentiator, the line of scrimmage. Like they bring in elite linebackers. I think they recruit tight ends as well as anybody. So they recruit for their identity. They have a massive offensive line. So I think when you look at how Tennessee's recruiting, I think they're recruiting for their identity really well, probably as good as anybody. But I think it's just going to be continuing to stack that talent, that high end talent, particularly in the line of scrimmage. And I think that's going to be, to me, the biggest determinant on competing with a team like Georgia. Down in and down out. I think they just play such a physical brand of football. So I think for Tennessee, it's going to be continuing to stack D line, O line. I think they're trending in the right direction, but you kind of want to see that continue to build up. Each cycle. But one thing I've noticed, guys, too, kind of I think in the NIL era, Yeah, I think back to the 2019, 2020 cycles. I think the gap between the top three, four schools, uh, looking from back then to how it is now has flattened. I think there's a lot more parity in just the kind of recruiting the national talent. So there's a little more even dispersion. And I think Tennessee's a program that's kind of benefited from that. I think when you kind of once you get outside of that, the Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, that kind of tier, the gap isn't quite as big now. So I think that helps programs like Tennessee, in an effort to kind of catch up with those schools that are in the top three every cycle.
We're talking to Charles Power from On3, Director of Scouting and Rankings, and you referenced David Sanders Jr. A few moments ago. He's a five-star offensive lineman, a consensus five-star guy. Why are you so high on him? If he were to choose Tennessee, he's going to announce in the next week and a half. What would Tennessee get, and how would he affect the class with his addition?
Yeah, David Sanders is an elite athlete. I think he's a guy who is extremely twitchy, a jumbo athlete. I think he's so athletic he would probably be a four-star defensive lineman. So he's just has a good size. He's like 6'5.5", 275. Has added probably 25 pounds and can really run. He probably I would imagine he runs under like a 5, probably a 4.9, 4.8, 40. Just I think, but at his size, I think he has really good power. He's explosive. He plays nasty. He knows how to play. And I think when you watch him at the high school level match up against kind of blue chip pass rushers, he holds his own. Rarely ever makes mistakes. So I think he's a really good player right now, and he's going to continue, I think, to get bigger and stronger. But I think you're looking at a left tackle of the future. I think when you look at Tennessee, they have Zalance Hurd in there right now. I think after him, David Sanders is a multi-year starter at left tackle and is going to hold down that spot, which is obviously a pivotal position, a premium position, especially in the SEC with all the guys that they're going to be facing on a weekly basis. So he's a big time player for sure. And I think in my time doing this is probably going into the senior year the best group of offensive linemen nationally that I've seen just from my time doing this. And David Sanders is kind of right there at the top. And so I think to come away with a guy who's certainly one of the best in the cycle and what might be the best offensive tackle cycle in recent memory it would be a huge get.
Charles, you were very proud of James Pearson, what he was able to do at Tennessee. You were one of the only sites to have him as a 5-star, and now he is projected as a top 10 pick and an All-American preseason. Do you have that type of feeling that you had about James Pearson? Do you have that about anyone in this class for Tennessee? Maybe you guys were higher on him. You were higher on a particular player that's going to be a freshman this year versus the other sites that maybe we need to pay attention to.
Yeah, I would say off the top of my head, we had several. I would say, in last cycle, really like Peyton Lewis. I thought he had a case as being one of the top running backs in that cycle. I think we finished with him as maybe the number 3 running back. Had a great senior year, and I think he fits number 4 running back. I think he fits Tennessee's scheme really well. I think when you look at that offense and kind of dictating light boxes, this guy, he can get north-south like extremely quickly. So I think when you look at the type of backs that excel in Heupel's offense, I think he's a perfect fit. I'm sure y'all probably seen him in practice. Like, he's really physically imposing. He's rocked up, and he has like elite speed at that size. So he's one for sure that I would be that we were excited about coming out. I mean, I love Jordan Ross. I think I'm not sure how he's looked once he's gotten there, but extremely twitchy. Great bends. I thought his effort level was outstanding. Seeing him kind of in the all-star setting. Zalance Hurd was one, obviously signed with LSU, transferred to Tennessee. We had him as a 5-star. He was one I think we were a huge outlier on for most of that cycle. He's like just nasty and just elite length. So there are several, but yeah, I think Tennessee's done a good job of kind of identifying some of these, kind of guys who might be kind of flying under the radar. I'll give you another one too. I'm sure y'all have seen him. Jeremiah's Hurd. If we had known Jeremiah's Hurd was going to play offensive tackle this early, I think we were the only site to have him as a 4-star, and that was kind of looking at him as a defensive lineman. If we had known he was going to play offensive tackle, I think we would have had him much higher, because his measurables are elite. He's like 6'8", like 300 plus, like 36-inch arm. So he's a guy as well. I think folding it back into that offensive tackle discussion, I think Tennessee between both Hurds, Lance Hurd and Jeremiah's Hurd, and if landing David Sanders, that is a room full of guys who have like first round potential at an offensive tackle. So I would be excited about him as well.
Oh, Charles Power. Oh yeah, man. I love it.
You're talking Swain's language. By the way, Jeremiah's Hurd, you mentioned him. We were talking about Bruce Feldman's Freaks list that came out a few days ago. We're talking about, okay, who are potential candidates for that in the next couple of years? Jordan Ross seemed like an obvious pick. One of our listeners said Hurd should be somebody in the next couple of years that if he develops, he could be that kind of player. I don't know if you would say that, but it's interesting you bring his name up considering somebody else did just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, he's freaky. I think the biggest thing with him is just going to be continuing to develop. But we liked his upside as a defensive lineman. It's kind of rare. I mean, I know Tennessee's had some really tall defensive linemen when you think back of guys like John Henderson, but Jeremiah's Hurd, I think putting him at offensive tackle kind of completely just changes that paradigm. And I mean, he is like a first off the bus type. And yeah, I mean, I thought that was kind of a master stroke, or kind of I love the guys that have the traits. I mean, you just can't teach the kind of physical skills he has. I think giving him some time to develop in Tennessee's program, he's one that I would, maybe not, I don't know if he's going to play this year, obviously, but I think he's a guy that we could look up in a couple of years. Everybody's like, oh, wow, where did this guy come from? So definitely a name to keep in your back pocket.
Charles Power on 3. The name Faison Brandon is more interesting to Tennessee fans after he committed this past weekend. Highly touted guy. He's in the 2026 class. How does he profile? What's his potential as he still has room to run in high school before he gets to college?
Yeah, Faison Brandon's got a ton of potential. I think when we were going through looking at that 2026 quarterbacks coming out of their sophomore year, I came away just from that sophomore year evaluation thinking he was probably the best. Just we kind of pegged him as the number 1 quarterback in the cycle. Now, obviously, there's a lot of football left to go. He has 2 more seasons of varsity football and is only a 1-year starter at the varsity level. So, but I think when you look at his size, he's like 6'3 plus, around 200 pounds, well built. He's a plus athlete, very good basketball player, and you can kind of see him tuck it and run. He's got good burst, and then he's got a very strong arm. I think he attacks all areas of the field. He shows the ability to kind of stick it in tight windows over the middle. Can push the ball vertically. Has looked good in multiple times we've seen him this offseason. And I think he enters the fall kind of that pole position as the number 1 quarterback in the country. Obviously was extremely coveted. Like all these top programs are going after him. So I mean, he's a huge gift for Tennessee just from a recruiting kind of value perspective. But I think he's definitely a guy who's very exciting just with his kind of well-rounded skill set. Kind of has what you look for in the modern quarterback skill set, with his ability to kind of beat you so many ways. But also too, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing just the continued growth, right? He's younger for the cycle, really could be a 2027 prospect just because he's got the late birthday, kind of the summer birthday, which I think is another feather in his cap. So looking forward to just kind of seeing how he, grows, as a junior. I think for us, seeing that continued progression, we tend to want to bet on guys who get better and better and better, their junior and senior years. So I think he's got a great starting point. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does this season.
Swain, anything else for Charles before we let him go? I know you enjoy these segments when you're hearing about the 4- and 5-star guys.
No, man, Charles just made my day. Charles made my day. I'm good. I'm happy. Thank you, Charles.
Hey, actually, I will ask one more thing, Charles. We'll get you out of here, I promise. Speaking of the quarterback position, is there anything you're interested in seeing from George McIntyre? He has his senior season coming up there, I guess just down the road from you, right, in Nashville at Brentwood. But anything you're looking for from McIntyre ahead of getting to Tennessee next fall?
Yeah, I mean, I think for George McIntyre, it's just going to be, just continued improvement. He had a disjointed junior year. I think they had some protection problems. They play a tough schedule at Brentwood Academy. I mean, so he's going to be in kind of, just high leverage competitive situations. I think the biggest thing is just, just kind of seeing how he plays in general. For us, just production is a big deal with for seniors. So I think just looking for just continued improvement. Saw him this offseason, did not get to see, he had an injury, so we didn't get to see him at the Elite 11 finals. So just kind of seeing, how he's throwing the ball, moving around. Obviously, I think George is going to be a guy who's going to need to continue getting bigger. But I think that'll probably occur once he gets on campus at Tennessee rather than, while he's in high school because he's playing basketball a lot of the time. So we watch all these senior quarterbacks really close. I mean, I'll probably watch the majority of his games on film. So just kind of getting a feel for how he's developing as a player. I mean, he's got really good, pocket movement, pocket instincts, a natural athlete. But I think for me, it's just kind of just seeing the progression and just getting a better feel for where he stacks up in that quarterback group nationally.
Good stuff. Charles, we always appreciate the time, appreciate the work that you do, and appreciate the time you give us to kind of break down what you're seeing with a lot of these guys. Thanks so much for joining us here today.
No problem, guys. Fun as always.
Thanks, Charles.
Charles Bauer, he is the director of scouting and rankings for On3.com, talking about Tennessee's 2025 class, and the Vols already off to a good start in 2026. We appreciate Charles joining us. We appreciate you being with us. We'll continue and invite you to join us. You can call or text in at 865-656-9900 as we continue right here on Josh and Swain. Josh and Swain, our final segment of hour number 1. We'll be here until 3 o'clock. Appreciate Charles Power joining us in the last segment of on3.com. Shout out to Kwame. He texted back in. That's who texted us a few days ago, Swain, and said, Jeremiah's heard. Watch out for him here in a couple of years in the Freaks conversation that we were having of big-time athletes. And then Charles mentioned him last segment. So that's something to get excited about for Tennessee fans, too, projecting over the next couple of years.
All right, Kwame. You ready to be a On3 staff member? Better watch out, Charles Power. Kwame's coming for your job.
Well, this is no good. Kwame's one of our loyal listeners. So if he starts working for On3 and he's scouting all day, he might not have as much time for the show, but maybe we'll get another good source out there. So it's the good trade-off.
You know, you old media, man, y'all, it's tough for y'all to keep up with the times, Josh, sometimes. They do have podcasts, which I heard is brought to you by Beatty Chevrolet, and it's available wherever you get podcasts. So he can do that.
That includes Apple, Spotify, and the WNML app. So search Josh and Swain. Make sure to subscribe so you can listen to our podcast anytime, anywhere you want.
Facts.
That's a good point, Swain.
Facts. Yeah, facts. I'm just here to report the news. That's all.
New media has the skills.
That's right.
Keep an eye on Peyton Lewis at the scrimmage tomorrow. I think you had already planned to do that as well, but that was one of the current players that Charles identified of a guy that they were really high on, maybe higher than others, and he's really intrigued to see what he does in this Tennessee offense. So the opportunity's there right away with the need at running back. So Peyton Lewis already on the radar, I'd say, but emphasized by Charles last segment.
Oh, I'll be watching, man. I'll be watching. I'll be like Derek Dooley when he said, "Where's Rumble?" I'll have on my goggles, man. I'll have on my glasses, my shades, whatever it takes to make sure I'm able to watch Peyton Lewis, man. All eyes will be on him for sure.
Also, John texting in, I missed most of the first hour. Is it game day yet?
Why, John? Well,
let's see.
I think you need to explain yourself why you're missing the show.
Well, don't forget he's got the podcast to be able to go back and listen to, Swain.
Oh, good point. I just made that.
But let's see, 4 days next week. Swain, today's pretty much a wrap. So we're at 8 days until Tennessee kicks off the season. We have 8 unofficial days by the Josh and Swain countdown. We're at Jonathan Crompton days until kickoff. How about
Josh, if someone lines up in Neyland Stadium and they're trying to camp out because they heard that it was just 8 days away and they get in trouble, that person is going to blame you, thinking that it was closer than it really is.
They're going to blame us, Swain. We don't talk offense. We don't talk defense. We talk we-fence on this show. So we ride together on that one. We have 2 more hours to go. Hear what Joshua Joseph says about Tennessee's defensive front when we come back on Josh and Swain. Having a great Thursday afternoon. We have 2 hours to go. We invite you to join us along the way, 865-656-9900. We have Luke working on his Photoshop skills. That's in the text box, Swain, for you to check out. We have Rodney Garner that you'll hear from on today's show, talking about the defensive line, which has a ton of potential, but he'll tell you has a ton of work to do as well. Did you see it there?
Oh, I saw it. Luke took my head and put it on Derek Dooley's body when Derek Dooley was on a stool at Mississippi State.
That'll be Swain at the scrimmage tomorrow.
I plan on walking without the assistance of a cane, and I plan on sitting in a normal chair if I do sit down, if I'm up in the stands, or if I'm not in the stands, I plan on standing up on the field and watch a scrimmage. I don't plan on being on the stool, but I can appreciate a good laugh.
Hey, get comfortable. Get comfortable. If anybody catches Swain being wheeled into the scrimmage tomorrow and is able to send me a photo, it'll be a nice prize that comes with that one. I'll tell you that much.
You know what? A couple of days ago, out of nowhere, my hips start hurting. Like, out of nowhere. Like, I didn't do anything. My hips start hurting, and I felt like
New era.
Huh?
It's a new era.
Well, I'm a man. I'm a 40. So, like, I felt like that was the first time I felt 40.
Yeah.
I didn't get hurt, didn't do anything, but I feel like I needed a wheelchair in that moment.
Yeah, last hour we were talking to Charles Power about some of those off the bus guys. You used to be an off the bus guy. You'd walk off the bus like, look at that guy, a wide receiver.
Oh, that's a fact. That is a fact, my friend. That's a fact. But hey, we got some in our group now, so.
Yep. Make room for some others
right.
In the 2023, 24, and to come, the 2025 class. Or we could just say the entire defensive line group. So you'll hear from Rodney Garner, and he will be hesitant with the praise, but that will not affect what Joshua Josephs had to say. Meeting with the media yesterday, listen to Joshua Joseph's breakdown of the potential and the danger that comes with facing Tennessee's defensive line group.
No team can really stop us. Like, you can't handle what we have. Like, even like the amount of rotations, we're gonna be so fresh off the field. We got Big O, Big E, Jackson Moy. We got Bryson Easton, Omar, Norman Lott. We got Dave and Hobbs, and them. That's just the interior right there. Them 6 guys on the interior that's gonna be rotating, and then on the our edges. Like, y'all see it, man. You see who we got, man. We got James Pierce. Off rip, come on, dude. Can't even plan for him. We got James. We got Caleb Herring, bro. Come on, yo. Caleb is the dog. We got Jason Jenkins. I'm telling you, he's good. Y'all, he's a sleeper. Jason Jenkins is a sleeper. Don Bailey for sure. Tyree, we got dogs everywhere. So it's like you can't really plan for us, honestly.
Joshua Josephs, key edge rusher and top hype man for Tennessee's defensive line group.
I love Joshua Joseph's energy. I love it, man.
Yeah. It reminded me of this, and I think it did some others. His name is Nelson Napke, who is a high school player just a few years ago who was asked about his teammates, and the hype man came out. Nelson Napke.
On dog. Sir Hale, dog. He scored 5 touchdowns against Southside. RJ Hogue, dog.
So that's Joshua Josephs, I think, talking about Tennessee's defensive line group.
Absolutely. That's exactly what he did. Dominic Bailey, dog. Murray Thomas, dog. Bryson Easton, dog. James Pierce, come on, man. I don't need to tell you about that. Off the edge, dog. Tyree West, dog. Omar Norman Lott, dog. Yeah, that was great, man. That was great. I love that.
It is political season. It's an election year. Do we have to balance out the conversation with some Rodney Garner? Because his take might be a little different than Joshua Joseph's. Do we save that? You want that now? What would you say?
The fact that you even mentioned political season, I feel like we need to wash out this segment. So, yeah, please play it.
So the question will come from Ben McKee. Austin Price told us about this yesterday. I pulled it up after the show yesterday, and it was terrific. So the question is spot on by Ben, but he's asking Rodney Garner about the praise of Tennessee's defensive line group. So you'll hear the question from Ben about the praise, and you'll hear Rodney Garner here.
Rodney, there's been a lot of praise surrounding your room this offseason. How have you seen your guys in your position group continue to work in the midst of all the praise and the accolades from the outside?
Who's praising? I'm not. So we just try to block out all the outside noise. The one thing about it, when you look at that film, when you study it and you come in there every day and you really look at it and you got to be your own biggest critic, and it's no different from me as a coach. Every day that I'm going out there in that field, I'm working to be a better coach today than I was yesterday. Same thing that they're working for as players. And, we all have a lot of room that we need to improve in a lot of areas. If they're going to heap this kind of stuff on you, then you got to prepare for it. And that's the thing. Like I told them, man, this is not going to be easy. To whom much is given, much is required. So we've got to prepare ourselves to go out there and be able to play at a championship level, and that is the challenge every single day.
As Tennessee defensive line coach Rodney Garner.
Ben McKee, dog. Rodney Garner, dog. This is two dogs right there.
Yeah.
I have a dilemma, Josh. I'm going to ask you because you are the standard when it comes to media.
Okay.
So if there is an example of praise not necessarily coming from outside the building, but coming from inside the building on the staff, is that something that we probably need to mention since Rodney said it was just outside praise? Because as I recall, I remember Tim Banks said that he expects this defensive line to be the best in the country.
You are correct. It has not just been the media or one of his players in Joshua Josephs, but in the spring, that's really what got the ball rolling with talking about all the super potential of this defensive line group was Tim Banks saying that thinks they should have the best defensive line in the country. Remember in that clip, though, he at one point like stops himself. He's like, I'm not even talking football. I'm just talking people. No, Tim, you're talking football.
Now you said it. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. Yeah. I love it because, like, you need Tim Banks to throw out those big expectations, those big goals, and then you need Rodney Garner to kind of be the bad cop and say, no. We ain't there. But we can get there, but you have to get better every single day. You have to try to outdo yourself every single day. What did you do today that helped you become a better player than you were yesterday? Like, so you need that. You need coaches, one blowing you up and making you think that you can do anything, but the other one saying, hold on now, you ain't there yet. It's going to take every single day of hard work and paying attention to the details to get there. I love that. I love it.
Yeah, you can play both sides, and that's probably a good thing. Like Tennessee basketball, Rick Barnes is pretty tough on his guys a lot of the time on the practice court, right? Yeah. You have the assistant coaches that can play a different role. I asked Justin Gainey one time, do you feel like you have to be a little tougher on Jordan since he's your son? He's like, Rick takes care of that. That's no problem. So that would be the case here. I don't think anybody's worried about the defensive line group being held in check because Rodney Garner's the coach leading that group. So Tim Banks can say what he can say, and both can be true. Everything Rodney Garner said in that clip is correct, right? In terms of the expectation level and what people think they're capable of. That means more responsibility to go make it happen. All that's true. And it can also be true that they can end up being one of the best groups in the country.
Yeah, my favorite is Cam Carr. I was talking to him during a commercial break during the locker room last year. And I asked about how do you get that green light? What does it take for you to get that green light? Because Cam Carr was letting it fly when he was in. And he let me know that Rick told him he does not have the green light and told him not to shoot. Well, Cam didn't listen to it because he still shoots. And remember in the NCAA tournament game, was it against Creighton? He hit a three. Mm-hmm. He let it fly. So coaches say things to you to see how you're going to handle it. They challenge you. They see how you respond. And the quicker you understand that as a player, the better you can be. If you get in your feelings, you let it bother you, you're showing the coach you can't handle adversity. You can't handle some criticism. When you take it, run with it, and say, all right, coach, I'll show you, that's what the coach wants to see. That's what the coach, that's the type of player that the coach wants to coach.
I would like to see somebody take their phone and walk it up to Rodney Garner and play the Joshua Josephs clip for Coach G. That's something I would like to witness. I'd like to see his reaction to that one.
Yeah, I want to see that too. I want to see that too.
There's a clip from Jimmy Kimmel 12, 13 years ago at this point, somewhere in that range. Remember when Kobe was out from the Achilles tear? And so he wasn't playing, and it was Nick Young and a bunch of guys that probably shouldn't have been on the Lakers that were having to battle through. And they had ended this losing streak, and they win a game, and they have this crazy post-game celebratory interview. And they play the clip of that for Kobe, and they come back to Kobe at the end, and he has a violent look on his face. I think it would be similar to that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's very entertaining.
I go to practice to watch Rodney Garner coach his players.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that you're going to feel great about yourself to where you're not going to treat the next rep like it's your last. He won't let you do that. And if you slip one step or one bit in terms of your focus and your intensity, he is going to let you know. And he can tell. He was getting on them yesterday. I was rolling. I was rolling. Then I was like, all right, let me go here and watch the receivers.
But by the way, kind of an underrated part of the offseason, right? Tennessee held on to Rodney Garner. There was a chance for him to go back to Auburn, and he stayed at Tennessee.
Yeah, I think that's home for him. One day I think he'll retire and move back there. But for now, man, he's trying to win another championship. And here's an opportunity to do that here at Tennessee. He loves the city. His daughters love Knoxville. And so there's no rush. There's no rush for him to go home and retire.
So a little fun, this first segment of hour number 2, talking about Tennessee's defensive line group, which does have the ability to be really good for Tennessee this season. We'll continue the conversation, 865-656-9900. If you would like to be a part of it, call or text in at that number. Comments, questions about Tennessee's football team. They'll scrimmage tomorrow night at Neyland Stadium. We'll continue the conversation here on Josh and Swain. This is Josh and Swain. Thanks for being with us. You can join us, 865-656-9900, to be part of the show. Tommy sent in a text after listening to last segment. Swain said, I've heard Rodney Gardner at a scrimmage in an empty stadium. Luckily, there were no kids there. Kind of scared me.
Hey, man, that's football, so it's part of it, man. It's intense, and sometimes, when you're coaching offensive, defensive line, like you got to be mean, you got to be rugged, you got to be loud, you got to be demanding. That's just part of being an offensive line coach, defensive line coach.
We got this question in the text box from David. What game is Nico likely to struggle in first? And which game is he most likely to come up clutch? Those could be the same game, by the way. You can have struggles within a game and still come through in the end.
Most likely? Well, the first tough test. I mean, you're not going to have a flawless game where, like, you make every throw and make every perfect read. But I think to the common fan and to the naked eye, sometimes it looks flawless. But you go and sit into that meeting room with some of those players, and you listen to them be critiqued by their coach, you would have thought, oh, my gosh, he had a terrible game. But you're right. You can have both in the same game. You can have a bad possession, bad half, a bad throw. Could be a bad possession. You have a bad quarter, and then you can come back and have a great quarter. Like Hendon Hooker didn't have a great game at all against Pittsburgh on the road, but he had a great fourth quarter and a great overtime. So that's part of being a quarterback. That's part of the position. That's part of the sport.
We are all guilty at some point in the middle of a game of forgetting that a game is 60 minutes. And that can be either way. You can get overconfident early on if you have success in the first quarter, or get too negative too quickly if you get behind early. But you play for 60 minutes, you play 4 quarters of football, and if you're up big early or you're down, obviously that creates an advantage or disadvantage. But what happens early, this is not a fun example, but that 2015 Oklahoma game, there was a point in the middle where I was like, I don't know if Baker's the answer here. And then Baker rallied them in the second half. He was a different player in the second half than the first half in Knoxville.
It's why before I started doing sideline duties, I got off Twitter, watching the game and being on Twitter. Because, like, if we kicked off first and the team scored on first possession, oh, my gosh, we're about to get killed. What are we doing on defense? Do we even care? Did we even practice? What are we doing? This is terrible. Oh, my gosh, we're about to get blown out. Relax. The first couple plays are scripted. Once the other team settles down, it'll be closer. It happens so much where you catch a team off guard the first play or first possession, and then the game changes from then on. It happened to us at home versus Georgia. First play of the game, we scored a touchdown. Oh, man, we're about to rush for 600 yards against these Georgia Bulldogs. They might not even touch us. This may be a flag football game. And then it wasn't. So you can't go one way or the other after the first 2 possessions.
Yeah, and you brought up that Pitt game. That is one that doesn't get talked about too often, but that was a huge game with where the season went and where the conversation has gone since then with Tennessee football.
Yeah, man. Hendon,
overtime game.
Yeah, Hendon was not recognizable to me in the first quarter. I mean, the passes that he threw to Cedric Tillman, I thought he was throwing them to Keon Johnson. I thought he was throwing them to LeBron James. They were high. And that's sometimes what happens when you have a quarterback that's really hyped up, excited. He tends to throw it a little bit high. But once Hendon calmed down, used his legs, the running game was pretty good. Our defense did a a fairly good job against the pass. Now, not so great against the run because their running back had a career day. But when it came time to make the play to win the game, the defense made a huge play, offense made a huge play. Tennessee went home as the winner. And sometimes you have games like that. You prepare for the game to go like it did on the road 2021 versus Missouri, where everything you do is a touchdown, and defensively, everything you do stops a touchdown. Like you have some opportunities and moments like that, but very few. And then sometimes you have a perfect game plan and you have to throw it all away and fight, claw, scratch just to be 1 point better by the end of the game. Sometimes it happens too.
There's a chance because it's the first game against a quality opponent, with all due respect to the Mocs on August 31st, that week 2 might have a slower start against NC State. By the end of the fourth quarter, things have been figured out in the middle of the game, and Nico and the offense is humming.
Could happen. Remember the first possession of the Josh Heupel era? We go down and score. It was like it was nothing. And I think we did it again on the second possession. And then like around the third quarter, it was stagnant a little bit.
Yeah, Thursday night game against Ball State.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I think that's what it was. But like we left that game saying, I don't know about Joe. I don't know. Hopefully he doesn't overthrow these passes next week versus Pittsburgh. And then it happened.
Bowling Green.
Bowling Green, okay. Yeah, Bowling Green.
Yeah, Ball State was the following year.
I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. With all due respect, do you do that after you disrespect the person or the team, or is that something you do
It's
before?
better to do it before, but as long as you make sure to mention it, I think you've cleared your bases.
All right. With all due respect, not much difference. But yeah, like you have hot starts that turn cold. You have cold starts that turn hot. It happens.
Somewhere there's a Bowling Green fan streaming the show, and there's a Ball State grad or fan streaming the show saying there's a big difference, guys.
I bet they're disgusted. Ugh, I can't believe he mixed this up.
Yeah, they should be.
With that ugly brown. Ugh.
Yeah, that Bowling Green game, that was a slug there in the middle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That happens. Ugh, that brown is disgusting from Bowling Green.
I don't think that there will be too much of that against UTC. Doesn't mean they're going to score a touchdown every possession, but I think Tennessee will cruise August 31st. A lot of points.
Well, that's what you're paying for.
The Bowling Green game was 38-6. I'll take the over on Tennessee's point total against UTC.
Yeah, 38-6. Like, think about every game that Tennessee has played since that game versus teams that we pay a check to. 38-6 is not Josh Heupel like. Like when we played against Austin Peay last year, that game was disgusting.
Yeah.
Offensively.
That was a tough watch.
So we know when Tennessee plays a team like that, we're expecting 40, 50 points. Like what we did to UConn, that's what I expect.
Ooh, 50-piece for the opener. Okay.
I mean, I think that's what you should expect if you're this Tennessee offense, especially if you have a stable of receivers that will want to get in and make plays.
Yeah, we can save this question for game week, but we can do an over-under on the quarterbacks. We'll see.
That's next week, according to you.
In the opener. Yeah, we're just a few days away.
Yeah, but game week is next week, according to your math.
Yeah, the Josh and Swain countdown has us at 8 days until Tennessee kicks off the season. As a reminder, we don't count Fridays, weekends, game week itself, because that'll just fly by. And we've already crossed off today. So 8 days to go until Tennessee takes on UT Chattanooga on August 31st. We'll continue at 865-656-9900. So ESPN has a ranking of the first-time playoff contenders. Tennessee's not been to the college football playoff yet. They're hoping to change that this year, where ESPN ranks Tennessee among the first-time playoff contenders for this year. When we come back, and we invite you to join us at 865-656-9900 here on both 99.1 The Sports Animal and AM 640 The Sports Monster. Thanks for being with us on Josh and Swain on this Thursday afternoon. 865-656-9900 for you to join us. VFL and former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain is here. I'm Josh Ward. And Swain, at the cover of ESPN.com in the college football section today, they have a piece from Heather Dinich, who covers the sport, has for quite some time. And they have a ranking of the first-time college football playoff contenders. And they're factoring the FPI, what their analytics say. We talked to Bill Conlon just a couple of days ago from SP Plus. That's also part of ESPN.com's college football coverage. The number one team with the best chance at the playoff, trying to get there for the first time again. There used to be the 4-team playoff. Now there's 12, is Penn State. Number 2 is Missouri. Number 3 is Tennessee.
Okay, all right. I think
Ahead of Kansas State. And Kansas State's chances is largely based on the automatic bid you get as a conference champion because they have a really good chance to win the Big 12 this year. Ole Miss is number 5. Then Louisville, Boise State, Utah, which is a team getting a lot of preseason top 10 love now as a member of the Big 12. Tennessee is number 3, behind only Penn State and Missouri. The analytics say Penn State has a 59.1% chance to make the playoff. Missouri is at 37.3. Tennessee is at 36.9, right behind Missouri, well ahead of Ole Miss. The ESPN analytics give Ole Miss a 20.7% chance to reach the playoff. That feels low to me on Ole Miss, but Tennessee ahead of the Rebels by a good amount.
Well, I mean, Penn State has consistently been like the third best team in the Big Ten. They can't beat Ohio State. Ohio State's they've been getting beat by Michigan. They've been good, but just not good enough to get into the club. Now that you have expanded the club, it makes it easier for a team and a program like Penn State to be able to get in. Missouri should be high. They should be ranked ahead of us with that list because they return all their talent. They have a really good quarterback, playmaker, Luther Burton. Eli Drinkwitz, good coach, especially when he stands on business. And then they have a really easy schedule. So I get Penn State and Missouri being 1 and 2. We do this every year at Penn State. All right, this is it. This is the year. This is the year. They're going to do this. They're going to do this. And they do nothing. But because the playoffs, it's 12 teams, they'll have a chance.
Yeah, if you think 10-2 gets a team in from the Big Ten, and they've gone 10-2 in back-to-back seasons, it makes sense that they would be projecting that spot. By the way, this doesn't mean only one of these teams gets in. Multiple teams will have a good chance. It's a 12-team playoff. So with expansion, there'll be a lot of teams that have gotten in previously that will have a chance to do that this year. But Penn State, Missouri, Tennessee, I'm confused by the position of Ole Miss. Ole Miss's schedule is favorable, but Tennessee and Ole Miss, I think, are comparable in how their schedules shake out for what they can accomplish this year. So I think Tennessee and Ole Miss are really comparable. Tennessee, Ole Miss, Missouri has the most favorable schedule of anybody in the SEC. So that's a big reason for the Tigers' position.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think Tennessee is actually pretty high. I was surprised to see Tennessee as high as they were.
Yeah, try to compare to the coaches poll ranking. So Kansas State's an intriguing team out of the Big 12 in that they have this quarterback. So their quarterback from a year ago, Will Howard, left to go to Ohio State, right?
Mm-hmm.
At Kansas State, they're saying, okay, he was really good for us, but have fun at Ohio State. We have this Avery Johnson guy who can run around and has incredible speed and playmaking ability that they are very excited about. Similar to Oklahoma saw its quarterback go to Oregon, and they're saying, well, we've got Jackson Arnold. Different situation with Tennessee because Joe Milton graduated and went on to the NFL, but Tennessee saying, hey, we have a quarterback change. We're more excited this year. We have Nico taking over. So interesting quarterback dynamic with some of these teams trying to get into the playoff this year.
Yeah, she says Oklahoma may derail Tennessee, and I just feel good about that game because Nico prefers playing on the road. He likes it. First big test, but won't be the first away game test. I think the NC State neutral site game is going to prepare him to go on the road and perform in a hostile environment.
Yeah, the 12-team playoff helps because it allows a margin for error. Heather writes, Tennessee faces both Alabama and Georgia this year, but if they're the only two games Tennessee loses, you still have a chance in this system, which I think we all agree on. If Tennessee is able to win the games that everybody's projecting individually that Tennessee will win, so NC State, Florida, and then all the others, you need to go 2-1 against Georgia, Alabama, and Oklahoma, which is very doable. Not easy. Nobody's claiming it's easy, but the Oklahoma and Bama games are close to toss-up games from a point spread standpoint. So if you can split those, beat Florida at home, beat NC State and Charlotte, make sure you're ready for Arkansas on the road.
Yeah.
Nobody's sitting here saying, love Arkansas to win that game, but that's one where you have to be ready because I'm not making that case for the Vanderbilt game. Kentucky's in Knoxville, Mississippi State's in Knoxville. So there are only a few games where you say, be ready going. I mean, technically you say that about all of them, but Arkansas on the road, 2 weeks to get ready before you play Florida and Alabama. I think that's the one where folks have said, don't let that be a South Carolina from 2 years ago or somewhat a Missouri game from last year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, which really hurts my head to do, but I agree with you, man. Good job. All right, it's time to go to break.
Hey, my headphones, they must have shorted out. What'd you say?
I said it's time to go to break.
That's what I missed you saying. We'll come back. We have a sweet deal coming up for you tomorrow. We'll tell you about that when we come back. We have more Tennessee football to talk. We invite your calls and texts at 865-656-9900. That's how you can join us right here on Josh and Swain. And to Josh and Swain, thanks for being with us. VFL, former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain is with us. I'm Josh Ward, and 9 a.m., set the reminder on your phone for Pinchies tomorrow with the Sweet Deal. 991thesportsanimal.com. You hit the Sweet Deals tab. 9 a.m. tomorrow. We'll tell you about what's going on this weekend with Pinchies as Nick stops by the studio. Nick, how are you? Good to see you.
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Pinchies Lobster and Raw Bar Company. You can go to pinchieslobsterandbeer.com is the website. You're going to see a lot of what we're talking about here. So pinchieslobsterandbeer.com is the website. 212 Court Avenue in Sevierville, the heart of Sevierville. You have a lot going on this upcoming weekend. Tell us about what's going on this weekend. We'll remind everybody about the Sweet Deal, but big event planned.
Yeah, biggest weekend of the year for sure. We have two amazing East Tennessee bands coming this weekend, and Liquid Velvet and Driftboat Cowboys playing on Saturday for us. We're going to take it down to the bayou. We're going to do a low country boil with crawfish. So we've got some exciting things happening on Saturday.
Kind of paint the picture of what goes into putting on the crawfish boil and everything that goes into it.
Well, we're kind of at the end of crawfish season right now. So the biggest challenge for us is finding the live crawfish, which we do. We work with a partner out of Louisiana, of course, in finding that. But we have an outdoor 160 quart boiler. It's kind of a show. You can come and watch us cook it, and we actually serve it right next to our boiler. So it's like, here's your ticket. Come and grab your plate. We offer an all-you-can-eat option for those people who, 2 pounds isn't enough and they need a little bit more. So it's just a show all the way around. And our chef, Rick, will be out there manning our boiler all day long.
Having a good source, how big is that for you to bring in the quality you're looking for?
Oh, it's everything to Pinchies. This company, this restaurant was built on the premise that air travel and our abilities to source fresh seafood. We have fresh seafood delivered almost every single day of the week from our various partners in Maine, Massachusetts, the Chesapeake Bay. We do some Gulf Coast items, but predominantly we're in the Northeast. So yeah, it's everything for us.
Kind of set the scene as well. So the entertainment side as well. You mentioned the bands that'll be playing. So what's the atmosphere like? What does everybody enjoy when they come to Pinch?
Yeah, I mean, half of our seating is outside, so we are an outdoor venue. We have a stage, of course. We have an outdoor beer garden with 2 fire pits in it that we light after it gets dark out. Great place to sit down and have yourself a beverage and listen to some tunes after dinner. We've got a number of picnic tables outside where people can sit. It's just this really big vibe, and you're in historic downtown Sevierville, so it's just really cool thing.
So food and drink specials, right, this upcoming weekend?
Oh, yeah. We've got tons of them. Margaritas, margarita specials, draft beer specials. We've got our Kraken, which is a 2-foot tall, 6-pound Bloody Mary. And I'm hearing rumors that we're going to be releasing our Kraken 2.0 on Saturday.
Okay.
We've talked about it. And
any kind of tease there with that?
It has octopus tentacles on it. How's that for a tease?
That's a pretty good tease.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're taking it up a notch. We've been working on it since we originally created the first Kraken, which we did opening day of Vols football last year. So we're just about to lap 1 year, and we thought, okay, it's time to release the second version of it. And we sell a crazy amount of them. We have to bring in a fresh seafood delivery on Fridays, and we only serve it Friday through Sunday because we typically run out at some point on Sunday because we've sold through all the seafood that we have.
The website, again, pinchieslobsterandbeer.com for Pinchie's Lobster and Raw Bar Company. Sweet Deal goes live at 9 a.m. tomorrow, 9 a.m. on our website, 991thesportsanimal.com for the Sweet Deal. Those went quickly last time, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was like 20 minutes. So I would encourage everybody to get out there early.
Yeah. So
be lined up.
Do yourself a favor, set the reminder on your phone, do the 8:50 and then a second alarm at 8:56. So you know that you're lined up, ready to go at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Absolutely.
What was the kind of the influence and motivation to get everything going when you did with Pinchies and what you've built there now?
So I'm born and raised in the Northeast. So for me, it was a little bit self-serving in the sense that, I wanted to have a proper lobster roll. I wanted to have a great fried fish sandwich. Being raised as a Catholic, obviously, fried fish was a huge part of our life every Friday. And so I think we brought a lot of that New England flavor down to a place where we already have a lot of great Gulf Coast seafood places here. So it's something a little bit different for people who are more accustomed to the Gulf Coast seafood scene.
Yeah. What brought you down to East Tennessee?
Work.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been down here for 18 years. So
Okay. So have you made the full transition? Do you have part Northeastern still with you, and then now you're part of the Southeast as well?
I mean, I use the term
transplant?
"it's wicked, y'all." So I guess that's kind of
Okay.
like the perfect matchup
There you
between
go.
the North and the South.
There you go. So you're from pro football territory, right? So
Absolutely.
you a Pats guy?
No, Giants.
Giants. Okay.
100%.
Okay. So they play in the preseason tonight. There's a lot of excitement about Jalen Hyatt, how he's performed at wide receiver from the University of Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, if you watched Hard Knocks, which is out, and they did the Giants in the preseason, there's some exciting things on the horizon. Brian Dowell, of course, from Buffalo. I think this is the year where we kind of break through a little bit. It's going to be a little bit hard replacing Saquon, who, of course, unfortunately went to the Eagles, which is like the worst thing that can happen, short of going to the Cowboys. But I'm excited about the season. I think it's gonna be a great season for us.
Yeah, we've seen a few. I think the Seahawks just had one, but we've seen a few camp dust ups. The Giants had one with Daniel Jones in the mix there too.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones is it's a tough one as a Giants fan because we loved him coming out of Duke. May have been a reach for us. That sort of tended to be the way that the previous front office kind of went as far as draft approach. I think if it's going to happen, this is his year. And if not, then we'll see. A lot of great talent coming out right now at the quarterback position over the next few years.
So Will West in the afternoon, he's a big Giants fan. And because of some of the recent results, I've made fun of Will with how those results have gone. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hold off on that.
I appreciate that.
Because of you, Nick.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Anything else you want people to know about what's going on this weekend at Pinchies or in general when they're in Sevierville with the chance to stop by?
Just that I'll be there all weekend. I look forward to seeing everybody, and come on out and make sure you ask for me when you show up. I'd love to shake your hand and get some real feedback. That's the most important thing for us is our reputation and how we deliver on that value promise.
I love that. Thank you for stopping by. Thanks.
Absolutely. It's great meeting y'all.
Yep. 9 a.m. tomorrow as well. Don't forget the sweet deal. Set the reminder on your phone before 9 a.m. because they will go quickly at our website, 991thesportsanimal.com. We'll come back with 1 hour to go right here on Josh and Swain.
Fellas, Low T is not your typical doctor's office. Low T specializes in treating low testosterone with customized therapy or TRT for each and every patient. So fellas, if you're feeling tired, you notice that lack of motivation and drive, weight gain, loss of muscle mass, it's time to get your levels checked. You can do that with Low T Center. Results back to you in about 25 minutes because of their on-site lab. Also at Low T Center, you can get your health evaluated for treatment with prescription GLP-1 weight loss medications. So trust Low T Center to get you back to feeling your best, looking your best. Go to the website. That's lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Welcome into hour number 3 of Josh and Swain. Thanks for being with us. 2 down, 1 to go, and you can join us at 865-656-9900. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Today is VFL and former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain is here. I'm Josh Ward. Nathan sent in a text, Swain, just catching up, talking about a question we had last hour. When might Nico struggle for the first time, when he might have a chance to be clutch for the first time, maybe late in the game. Nathan asked the question, since Nico prefers playing on the road and Neyland has some more construction coming up, would you support playing 12 road games next year to speed up the renovations, plus get the benefit of Nico on the road?
Hell no. No power T being ran through, no Vol walk. Come on now, man.
Well, I'm sure they could work out something where they would do the power T on the road in 6 or 7 of the games.
We can do that at one venue on the road. That's Vanderbilt.
They don't do that already?
Well, that's why I said that's one. I don't know if anybody else will let us do that. But, you know, Nico struggled in the Iowa game. But it was cool. Like, it was a cool struggle because he picked up positive yards, and when he ran, maybe a little too soon, tucking it when it was a pass. Now, we understand the offensive line wasn't as good as it needed to be. Several guys were out. But Nico escaped the pocket a little too soon at times. But he's so good, it was a positive play in terms of yardage. So people saw that as hey, that's Nico being Nico. But when he sits down, watches the film with Heupel and Halsley, pretty sure they'll be telling him, hey, you had a man come open, just wait a split hair longer, and you can make that pass instead of putting your body at risk.
Yeah, also, I think Danny White's still going to want that home gate in 2025 and beyond. I wouldn't doubt that.
Danny White wants all the renovations to be done right now. He wants that home gate. He wants everything for Tennessee.
Luke did ask from a more serious perspective, do you carry over some of the past road struggles into this season? How much concern do you have with Oklahoma, first road game of the season? It's in Norman, not one of the easiest places to go play. We talked about the Arkansas game. Vanderbilt, I think I know the answer there with how much concern you might have. But Oklahoma, Arkansas, playing on the road, thoughts there with Georgia speaks for itself on the challenge. There won't be any concern in trying to get up for that. But you can add that in the conversation as well. Luke asking, how concerned are you with past road game struggles? Do we get that fixed this year?
Luke, quickly, you tell us how you feel. Quickly. Because I want Luke to tell us how he feels, because I think Luke will let us know how human he is, how human we are as Tennessee fans who even played the game, who covers this team more closely than the common fan. I would love to hear what Luke had to say about that. Is he concerned about some of the road game struggles, and does it carry over in terms of your concern level, especially at Oklahoma? Let us know, Luke.
Yeah, let us know. I will offer in quickly. I think anybody who says I have no concern is maybe not being totally honest with himself or herself.
I think the Nico factor is warranted because he's so cool, he's so calm, he's so collected. I think there will be a lot of faith in him. But at the same time, going into the season, I think it's fair for us to say, I am concerned until they show me not to be concerned. Most of the players that are on this team this year were on the team last year, where leadership was questioned at Alabama, where leadership was questioned at Missouri. You have to show that you are a better leader. Individually, you have to show that you have better leadership as a team. Us, as fans watching this team prepare and play on Saturdays, we need to see a difference on the road before we say, oh, we're not concerned. Not concerned, because in 22, we were concerned about playing in Death Valley until we proved that we can beat teams down in Death Valley, which is why we were so confident going into Georgia, going into South Carolina, because we passed that test at Death Valley. Well, you have to pass the test versus Oklahoma versus NC State about playing on the road or playing in a neutral site game, basically away from home. You have to show that same leadership that you show at home, because everyone is hyped at home. Don't be a front runner. Show that leadership on the road.
What time's that game going to be at Oklahoma?
Too late for you.
Don't doubt that.
You know what? I might say too late for us. I'm getting sleepier and sleepier, man.
Yeah, Mr. 40 over there starts judging.
I know, right? I know. But I'll be standing up the whole time, so it's kind of hard to sleep when you're standing up. So I'll be ready to go.
Trust me, I can still find a way on that one. But that one that's a TBD right now. That time has not been set. I had somebody ask me that yesterday. I don't know what the answer is. I'm a bad game time guesser anyway. But we also have the network changes this year. But Tennessee at Oklahoma, you want the earliest game time you can get, right? Like that LSU game a couple years ago.
I'm not afraid of the crowd. I want the earliest game time because our team plays better first thing in the morning because we're used to it. A lot of teams practice in the afternoon. Yeah, so if we can play every game at noon, I would be cool with that because I know that would be an advantage for our football team.
Yeah, who else is playing that weekend? So you have Arkansas, Auburn, the weekend of Tennessee, Oklahoma. LSU will play UCLA that weekend.
That'd be good. Where is that game? That's at LSU, right?
Oh, yeah. It's in Baton Rouge. It's going to be a tough one for the Bruins. They will be in L.A.
Hey, it'd be a different L.A.
Deshaun Foster comfortable there. I love that he leaned into his mishap, though, in the Big Ten Media Days opening statement. We're in L.A.
Hey,
rocking the T-shirt.
That's going to be his pregame speech against Louisiana State University, right?
Guys, home away from home. We're in L.A.
We're in L.A. Go get them.
and LSU. Yeah, so Tennessee, Oklahoma is easily the highlight of that weekend. Arkansas, Auburn, Florida at Mississippi State, LSU, UCLA, and then Cupcake City the rest of the way. It's Texas A&M playing Bowling Green, Texas against Louisiana Monroe, South Carolina against Akron, Missouri against Vanderbilt, Ole Miss against Georgia Southern, Kentucky, Ohio. So Tennessee, Oklahoma, easily the highest profile game of the weekend.
Are you calling your shot, Josh Ward, that Tennessee will be featured twice, at least 2 times, College Game Day? Is that what you're trying to say? Sounds like it.
That's a good question. I think there's a good chance for multiple game day spots. Yeah,
it has to be the Oklahoma game. I mean, first game in the SEC. Josh Heupel returning home where he won a championship as a coach. Like, this is a no-brainer for ESPN to have College Game Day at Oklahoma. Now, I would prefer not, because it's going to make Oklahoma's crowd probably a little bit more rowdy or whatever. But at the same time, it still features Tennessee. It allows Tennessee to get that recognition, get that free pub, and I'm all about that.
Yeah, how are they not there? I mean, there are other games, like there are a bunch of Big 12 games that are interesting because you have the convergence of the Pac-12 teams and the Big 12. So maybe there's that storyline, but that also applies to Tennessee, Oklahoma. It's Oklahoma's SEC debut, the Heupel storyline you're talking about, 2 big-time programs in a huge game for both sides. Like, they're not choosing Oklahoma State, Utah over that. BYU, Kansas State.
What about Colorado? You know, ESPN love Colorado now.
Yeah, Colorado, Baylor, I don't think is the draw.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
So, yeah, game day's got to be there.
Yeah.
And then I think I'd have to pull up the weekends, but maybe Tennessee, Alabama, they could come back to Knoxville. It won't be Tennessee, Florida, because that is a huge – they're probably going to be in Eugene for Ohio State, Oregon, would be my guess.
Yeah. They should.
Or I don't know. There are a bunch. There's the Oklahoma-Texas game that day too.
Yeah, they don't need to be in Knoxville for that game.
So So yeah, I'm just riffing here. But Luke followed up to your question. I'm not sure if it carries over. I'm definitely concerned if we start fast like at LSU, then I'm very confident. But I was at South Carolina. I was at Mizzou. I was at Florida. I was at Georgia. So it does scare me.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama, we started fast. So it's not necessarily about starting fast because Tennessee didn't have the necessary leadership to close the game versus Alabama in the second half. You thought you were winning. You thought you won the game at halftime. I mean, we were celebrating like the game was over. And, we had some of our guys hopping up and down, talking a little stuff to the Alabama players at halftime. And I was like, I hope you're ready to back it up in the second half. But we were not. Bama came out, scored the first possession, and the rest was history. So we have proven to start fast. It's not just about that. It's about answering when the other team has success. Like we did it against Alabama at home in 22, had the botched exchange. Alabama fumbles. We fumble. Alabama scoops it up and goes to score. And we came back and still won that football game. Like in the past, man, we don't recover from that. Or even the interception that was called back, we don't recover from that. That's the difference. There was leadership on that squad. Even though you had the bad game against South Carolina, at that point of the season, leadership was in a good place.
Swain, this segment got me excited, though. We just ran through a bunch of big-time games, Tennessee being a part of some of them.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
This segment got me excited. These are big games we're talking about here.
No, absolutely. Well, Mark said on the text box while he was talking, that's why I didn't hear you. Clearly, Luke is the problem. Tell him to stop going to games.
I wasn't going to say it.
Luke is not the problem. Luke has a tattoo.
Yeah. Multiple now.
Multiple Tennessee tattoos. It ain't his fault. That's like blaming Luke the same way we blame Peyton Manning for coming to the games.
The false curse.
The false curse. Yeah, it ain't Luke's fault. How about you guard the running backs out of the backfield? That might help with stopping the other team. It ain't on Luke.
Yeah, none of those 63 points in Columbia 2 years ago are on Luke.
I'm still mad thinking about Cody Schrader having a Darren McFadden type of performance against us. Ugh.
Yep.
Anyways.
Remember the ETN run last year?
I said anyways.
That's supposed to be a segue, Josh. That means we're moving forward, not backwards.
Yeah, I clearly said anyways, Josh, okay?
Listen, context clues. We'll continue 865-656-9900. If you would like to join us, text box is open. Same number to call in. We continued the Tennessee football conversation. Young Tennessee players to be excited about as they go through fall camp. They get ready for a scrimmage tomorrow to get ready for the start of the season. We have an update from a talent evaluator on that. We have a lot to cover over the next 45 minutes on Josh and Swain. Josh and Swain, thanks for being with us. At Josh and Swain on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Subscribe to the free newsletter we put out every Friday morning. That's tomorrow. Goes out once a week. It's free to sign up. JoshandSwain.com. Would love for you to subscribe. So go straight into your email inbox each Friday morning. JoshandSwain.com. Swain, look away from the SEC network after our conversation last segment. Crystal with the heads up in the text box to stay away. It might just be the Missouri-Tennessee game from last year.
The Dante Thornton touchdown was good, and then the Jalen McCullough pick was good. Everything else was trash. Throw it away.
And even the Thornton touchdown, that's his final play of the season because of the injury.
Yeah, it's a good play, though.
It was a good play.
Yeah,
it was a good play.
Yeah.
John, in the text box, I've heard from a good source that part of the orientation package at Vanderbilt include the instructions. In case of a tornado warning, everyone should proceed to the football stadium, which has proven to be the safest place because there are hardly ever any touchdowns.
Well, that's not true. There are touchdowns.
From the opponent?
Correct. Correct. Yep. Plenty of touchdowns, especially the SEC play. But when Hawaii comes to town, there's touchdowns on both sides.
That's true.
Don't
Did you
let
score a touchdown in Nashville?
Don't let me poo-poo on the joke. I'm sorry. Let me just play along. Ha
Yeah,
ha
come
ha. You're right. Great joke.
Swain approved. Did
right.
Did you score a touchdown in Nashville?
Who didn't score a touchdown in Nashville? Huh?
No big deal. Swain won't take credit for the big scores against Vandy, or I think did you score a touchdown against Memphis? Not celebrating that one?
Multiple.
Making that
Multiple against Memphis, but you know, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yep. Living up to expectations. That's what it is. Okay, so with the taste of the South Carolina game 2 years ago, Missouri last year, to get that out, how about in the first hour of the show? We talked to Charles Power. He's the director of scouting and rankings for on3.com. And part of the conversation was about the 2025 class. He raved about a bunch of guys and the evaluations, how Tennessee has targeted its type of players and gone out and landed them. Raved about David Sanders, who Tennessee has a good chance to land next week, plus Faison Brandon, the 26 class. Swain, you asked him about some guys who are on the team now. As a couple of years ago, On3 ranked James Pierce as a 5-star prospect. That seems to have panned out at the collegiate level with now he's a projected top 5 to top 10 pick in the NFL draft and a first-team All-American going into the season. You asked him, how about some guys on this year's team that maybe they were higher on than some others? Here's what Charles Power said about some young Tennessee players that he's very high on.
You know, in last cycle, really like Peyton Lewis. I thought he had a case as being one of the top running backs in that cycle. I think we finished with him as maybe the number 3 running back. Had a great senior year, and I think he fits number 4 running back. I think he fits Tennessee's scheme really well. I think when you look at that offense and kind of dictating light boxes, this guy, he can get north-south like extremely quickly. So I think when you look at the type of backs that excel in Heupel's offense, I think he's a perfect fit. And I'm sure y'all have probably seen him at practice. Like, he's really physically imposing. He's rocked up, and he has like elite speed at that size. So he's one for sure that we were excited about coming out. I mean, I love Jordan Ross. I think I'm not sure how he's looked once he's gotten there, but extremely twitchy. Great bend. I thought his effort level was outstanding. Seeing him kind of in the all-star setting. Lance Hurd was one, obviously signed with LSU, transferred to Tennessee. We had him as a 5-star. He was one I think we were a huge outlier on for most of that cycle. He's like just nasty and just elite length. So there are several, but yeah, I think Tennessee's done a good job of kind of identifying some of these, kind of guys who might be kind of flying to the radar. I'll give you another one too. I'm sure y'all have seen him. Jeremiah's Hurd. Like if we had known Jeremiah's Hurd was going to play offensive tackle this early, I think we were the only site to have him as a 4-star, and that was kind of looking at him as a defensive lineman. If we had known he was going to play offensive tackle, I think we would have had him much higher, because I mean his his measurables are elite. He's like, 6'8", like 300 plus, like 36-inch arms. So he's a guy as well. I think folding it back into that offensive tackle discussion, I think Tennessee between both Hurds, Lance Hurd and Jeremiah Hurd, and if landing David Sanders, that is a room full of guys who have like first round potential at offensive tackle. So I would be excited about him as well.
Swain, you got to love when you hear about first round potential on the offensive line. That's been a question. Guys out of high school, Hurd's a transfer, but he's a second-year guy. He was a high school prospect a little more than a year ago. Can you bring those kinds of players in and develop them into being high-level linemen in the SEC like Tennessee had a couple of years ago with Darnell Wright? He continues to be the player we cite. If they can have those kinds of guys in the future, that changes a lot of what Josh Heupel can do offensively.
I don't know about you, Tennessee fans, but I got chills listening to Charles Power talk about Peyton Lewis and Jordan Ross and Lance Hurd and Jeremiah Hurd. Like I got chills, man. I get excited when you hear that our coaching staff, they have a profile. The recruiting staff, they have a profile. They know exactly what type of player that they're looking for. And you're nailing them in recruiting. You're getting them. And they don't have to play right away, but they have the body type that you can develop. Like, look at, I know I've been talking a lot about Chaz Nimrod, but they took him, notice his size, his speed, and says, okay, he can put on more weight and be a receiver that can thrive in our system. Like, being able to identify guys the way Tennessee did with him, that's what they're doing in every other position. So, Peyton Lewis, they had him as the fourth back in the country. Well, you would have thought that, he was a 3-star with some of the press coverage that he was getting. He didn't get a lot of it. But on 3, has him as the fourth back in the country. They did the same thing with James Pierce. So Tennessee knows what they're looking for, and they're getting them. And we don't really know. We never really know if a player pans out until 2 or 3 years down the road. But I like what we're hearing from Charles Power. And he was already right about one, and that's James Pierce. So it makes it easier to believe in the 4 that he mentioned during that clip.
I'm looking back at Nimrod's profile. They had him as a 4-star on 3. That's one that Charles might add to his list here in a few weeks. They were the only ones to have him as a 4-star. He was the 280th ranked, so they had him as the top 300 overall player in the country. The industry ranking had him at number 415, but he was listed 6'1", 170 as a recruit. He's now listed by UT at 6'3", 220.
Yeah.
It's a 50-pound difference. So I know a lot's been made of his weight gain over the offseason. His weight gain since he was a recruit 3.5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago when that listing was done. I mean, he's a different person.
Yeah, like if you are reading the scout report as a DB, you just look at a receiver who's 6'3", 220, you're like, oh man, I better bring a lunch. I better bring a lunch today. It's about to be some work to get him down after the catch, to have to get off his blocks, to try to jam him at the line of scrimmage. You better bring your lunch, buddy.
Yeah, like Josh Palmer's 6'1", 210, just as a size comparison.
And Josh Palmer,
I know you're a big Josh Palmer fan,
is chiseled.
Yeah.
He's all muscle. So, that's Nimrod stuff, man. It's intriguing. 220, 6'3". All right, now.
You've put the word out.
I know, but I don't want to hype him up too much. I'm just telling people what I see. I see a baller in the making. I did the same thing with Josh Palmer when I saw him as a youngster. And, people thought that Jawan was the better receiver. They thought Callaway was a better receiver. Remember, he had that 2017 performance. I was like, man, Palmer got the tools to be better than both of those guys when it's all said and done. And Palmer right now is.
Kind of low-key demeanor as well, right?
Very low-key. Very low-key. I was in, back when Prue was part of the staff, I was in T. Martin's office one day, and Palmer came in, and, man, just really soft-spoken. I think T wanted him to be a little bit more vocal in terms of, like leadership and stuff like that, and Palmer was taking to it, but that was something that he was going to have to do, getting out his comfort zone to do it. And maybe he's doing it more now in the league, but very soft-spoken, just quiet.
The competition at those positions we're talking about will continue tomorrow night when Tennessee scrimmages. By the way, if you want to go back and listen to the whole interview we had with Charles Power, anywhere you get your podcast, it's up. You can go back and listen if you'd like to. Charles Power on 3 in the first hour of today's show. We'll continue the conversation. You can join us. Text box is open at 865-656-9900. We have an attaboy to hand out coming up. We're with you for another 30 minutes right here on Josh and Swain. almost 90 degrees.
Oh my gosh. Oh man.
We hand out attaboys and attagirls every day thanks to the Native Nursery Open for contractors and landscapers. And Swain, how about we go to the professional ranks today? Hand out an attaboy to Nick Foles, who announced that he will officially retire with the Philadelphia Eagles during their home opener September 16th against the Falcons. He is forever going to be a legend with the Eagles organization. He played for 6 teams over 11 seasons in the NFL. He was drafted by Philadelphia in 2012. Had a chance later on in his career with the Eagles to help lead them to the Super Bowl win against the Patriots, but not only lead them to a win, he had replaced Carson Wentz several weeks earlier because of his injury. He helps get them to the Super Bowl and then had an epic performance in the Super Bowl that will be talked about in Philadelphia forever.
Yeah, one of the cool things about his career is the Super Bowl win. But another thing worth mentioning is how strong he is in his faith and wore his faith on his sleeve and didn't waver and man, really trusted his faith when it came to opportunities that may have been there or some that were taken away. Man, he seemed to always have great perspective on life and his playing career. So seemed like a really good leader, and man, he maximized his career for sure, man.
Yeah, you can tell a lot about a player by the way his teammates talk about him. Yep. Jason Kelce was descriptive in a way that I can't exactly relay on the air here, but it tells you what his teammates thought about him, the way that he stepped up in that Super Bowl and the way that he led when he had to replace Carson Wentz. So a career that will forever be highlighted by the Philly special and the Super Bowl win in Philadelphia with the Eagles. And he announced that he will officially retire with the Eagles during their home opener September 16th against the Atlanta Falcons. So an attaboy today to Nick Foles. Every day we hand out attaboys and attagirls thanks to the Native Nursery, open for contractors and landscapers, your one-stop destination offering quality wholesale plants, trees, and landscaping materials. That includes boulders, flagstone, mulch, and more. They can take your leaves and hardscape waste for a low flat rate. It's a great company, so get in touch if you're a contractor or landscaper with the Native Nursery. You can call or stop by and see Ben and Ted at 3473 Louisville Road. It's just 5 minutes from Pellissippi off the Topside Road exit. And that number to call is 865-310-3256 for the Native Nursery. There will be some VFLs on display in the NFL preseason tonight. We'll hit the power poll coming up with VFLs that we are intrigued to see during the NFL preseason, which really gets going tonight after last week's Hall of Fame game. We'll come back with our final segment next here on Josh and Swain. Just FYI, it looks like McAllen Castles landed on IR earlier this week with the Eagles. Back for the final segment of Josh and Swain. Thanks for being with us today. We've had a lot of fun, and we'll be back tomorrow to do it again at 12 o'clock with more conversation ahead of tomorrow night's scrimmage that Tennessee will hold. First big scrimmage of the fall, getting ready for the start of the season. So we'll have plenty of football talk. We'll get you ready for the weekend. We'll have maybe a little NFL preseason action to react to. And also, Swain, he didn't get an attaboy because at this point we'd just be handing out a couple a week to Christian Moore, but he did it again last night. A couple of bombs, a walk-off in Double-A. If you want to see him there, you better hurry to go see Christian Moore with the Trash Pandas. He's killing it.
I was at the ballpark last week down there in Huntsville, and that's a beautiful area. And I was waiting for him to get back to Huntsville, or the team to get back to Huntsville, so that way it'd be easier to see him. We might have to be able to check him out maybe when they play Chattanooga, but I really wanted to see him play there for the Trash Pandas at home. I don't know if he's going to be there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and look into Angels tickets.
That's your second team?
I only have one team. That'd be the Atlanta Braves.
What about Farragut's own, Ben Joyce?
Pulling for him when he goes in for sure, which is pretty easy to do. You just have to be quick about it because that ball gets to the plate in a hurry.
All right. Okay. But yeah, Christian Moore is doing his thing, man. It's been unbelievable to see the transformation and just the high level of play. I don't think anyone's playing at a higher level at Tennessee. When's the last time someone has played at a level that Christian Moore is playing at right now?
Playing about like a
just period, like as an athlete.
Oh, I don't know.
He's been like this since the season started for Tennessee.
This might be controversial, but does there need to be an asterisk on Tennessee's baseball national title because they actually had a major leaguer on the roster?
Well, if you're going to put one on ours, you got to put one on LSU's last year. Had Paul Skeens.
Oh, I'm putting one on theirs for sure.
I mean, they had a all-star starter at pitcher. So you got to put
There's
two
some
next
titles,
to theirs.
yeah, where I put an unfair asterisk. It's unfair that Paul Skeens was there. It's unfair that the Vols had Christian Moore. Yeah,
well, in
absolutely.
that case, yes, I'm cool with that.
No, it's really cool to see, and I know fans are enjoying seeing the highlights of what Christian's done, and some other teammates of his saw hit by Dylan Dreiling. So when a former player now from Tennessee is in the pros doing big things, we'll see that with Dalton Connect with his highlights. Fans were excited to see him do some big things in the summer league. That's really cool to see.
Yeah, man. Christian Moore, Dalton Connect. Whew, what a year of performances Vol fans got a chance to witness.
Yeah, I don't know if they like in Chattanooga, can they offer some kind of revenue share? Like, hey, we'll give you a certain percentage of the gate if you'll just keep Christian Moore there so that we can have him come through Chattanooga August 13th through the 18th, something like that.
Chattanooga fans, don't get mad because we coming to the game and we ain't rooting for the Trash Pandas. We not rooting for the Lookouts. We rooting for Christian Moore. That's what we here for, all right? You know why we here. That's what Marshawn Lynch said. You know why we here.
It's exciting. Christian Moore, he is, I think, a future star with the Angels. Before we close out today's show, we hit the power poll, so we get some NFL preseason action tonight, and there is interest for Tennessee fans. Speaking of VFLs in the professional ranks. So tonight in the NFL preseason, Swain, a lot going on right now because Olympic action, you got more basketball later today. NFL Network, 7 o'clock tonight. It's the Patriots and the Carolina Panthers. You can also keep up with what's happening with the Detroit Lions, Hendon Hooker, and the New York Giants, Jalen Hyatt. So it's the start, week 1 of the NFL preseason. A list of Vols that we might be interested in watching, intrigued to see in the preseason. Would you like to hit us with your list?
Yeah, I can guarantee you we do not have the same list. I can guarantee you.
That's good. A lot of names to choose from.
Yeah, number 5. I bet this person is not even on your list. Cade Mays.
There you go.
He's the second string center there with the Panthers. He's played guard. He's played multiple positions. This is his 3rd year. This is a very important time for Cade Mays to either seal his spot with the Panthers or he may be on another team looking for another opportunity. So Cade Mays is at number 5. Number 4 is Jalen Wright, who is currently the third back there with Miami, so he'll get some opportunities. Number 3 is Joe Milton. He's in a battle with multiple quarterbacks there in New England, so he'll get some opportunities. And come on, man, I just want to see him throw far. Y'all know that's why we tuning in.
He can throw the ball really far.
Yeah, that's what they say. Number 2, Hendo Cinco, Hendon Hooker. First game since being hurt. This is a big opportunity for him to prove that he is a reliable number 2 quarterback. And number 1, I know you don't have this guy number 1, Kamal Hadden. Kamal.
That's where you might be going. The comeback.
Yeah, Kamal High Stepper Hadden, baby. Number 1 with Kansas City.
Okay. I had Kamal in the honorable mention category.
You got to be ashamed.
Look, he's a Chief. I'm a Raiders fan. I can only go so far with my list here.
Keep talking. Keep talking trash like your Raiders.
You know, there's a chance at some point we could see him line up across from Ramel Keaton. Keaton has a little more work to do to find his spot with the Raiders, but he ran some second team this week in practice. So I have Ramel Keaton number 5 on my list. Got to get a little Raider representation. I have Princeton Fant number 4 with the Dallas Cowboys. He's been getting some good run in practice according to reports. So I have Princeton Fant at number 4. Same spot as you. I have Joe Milton number 3. I have Jalen Wright number 2. I want to see one of those Georgia, UConn 80-yard takeoffs from Jalen Wright. And number 1, this is the comeback. I've got Hendon Hooker at number 1.
Yeah.
Lions tonight against the Giants.
That's a good pick.
If he throws a touchdown, I want to see him turn over to the Giant sideline and look at Jalen Hyatt and do the pullback. That's what I want to see.
You probably won't see that.
Probably won't.
Yeah, you might see that after the game or before the game, but you won't see that during the game.
Yeah, maybe a little preseason jersey swap.
Oh, you'll definitely get that.
Yeah. So, plus he's a professional. I am not, and that would be another difference in why we won't see that from Hendon. But you should see him on the field for the Detroit Lions. We get NFL preseason action. We get more Olympic action, the closing days. Enjoy them while they are here. And we will be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock. So appreciate you hanging out with us today. Thanks to Joel Silverberg for producing. As always, don't forget, Pinchy's with the Sweet Deal tomorrow goes live at 9 a.m. It's very popular. 9 a.m. tomorrow on our website, 991thesportsanimal.com. Appreciate Nick from Pinchy stopping by earlier today and joining us on the show. Giants fan, by the way. So a shout out to him for that. And we appreciate you being with us. We'll come back tomorrow, get you ready for the scrimmage action tomorrow, talk more Tennessee football at 12 o'clock tomorrow right here on Josh and Swain.